Sometimes your biggest enemy isn't a stranger. It's the family who smiles at you, lies to your face, and takes what was never theirs to begin with. My name is Jenna Collins, and this is the story of how I exposed a family secret buried for decades and made the people who betrayed my mother pay with everything they valued. I grew up believing my grandfather, Henry McCoy, was a generous, kind-hearted man who built our family name. The founder of McCoy Fine Timber, he was respected, wealthy, and supposedly fair. My mother, Elena, was his only daughter. But ever since I could remember, she was kept at a distance, not invited to board meetings, not given shares, not mentioned in press releases. She raised me on her own while her brothers, my uncles, Daniel and Mitchell, lived in glass houses built with family money. She never talked badly about them, but I knew. She was the outsider. And when she died suddenly from a heart attack when I was 23, I went to the funeral alone. My uncles didn't speak to me. My grandfather nodded politely. And then I was handed a letter she'd written before her death, a confession that turned my grief into fire. She told me she had once been the sole heir, that she helped her father grow the business in her 20s, drafted contracts, dealt with buyers, and kept the books while her brothers were in college. But when she got pregnant with me unmarried, by a man who left, she was cut out of the company entirely. They used family reputation as an excuse. They rewrote the trust, transferred everything to Daniel and Mitchell. My mother got nothing but silence. She raised me working 3 jobs while her name was erased from the McCoy legacy. She begged her father for a chance to come back, and he refused. That letter broke something in me. And I knew I wouldn't rest until they knew what it felt like to be stripped of power by someone they underestimated. I'd changed my last name to Jenna Cole, moved to a city nearby, built a career in environmental compliance, and quietly began consulting on timber licensing. I knew one day McCoy Fine Timber would come knocking, and 3 years later, they did. They were expanding into a new state and needed a specialist to navigate complex conservation law. I passed every screening. No one connected me to Elena Collins. I was hired as their lead consultant, with direct access to every document, board discussion, and financial report. Over the next 6 months, I uncovered everything. My uncles had been cutting illegal zones to meet quotas. They falsified compliance reports. And they funneled money through shell suppliers to avoid penalties. All of it signed off by Henry McCoy, still chairman emeritus. I copied everything. I verified it all twice. Then I sent an anonymous tip, with documents, to the state's Environmental Fraud Task Force. The investigation started quietly. Then the press got involved. Headlines read, McCoy Timber under investigation for environmental violations. Investors panicked. Sponsors dropped. Their stock dropped 47% in a week. Mitchell tried to blame a regional manager. Daniel went silent. And Henry? He issued a shaky video statement that only made it worse. I was still inside the company when they started the internal witch hunt. They never suspected me. I was quiet Jenna, the professional outsider. Then came the final move. I leaked one more file to the press, an old board memo where Henry explicitly told the board to remove Elena Collins from inheritance consideration, calling her a threat to brand purity. That line went viral. Thousands of women, single mothers, and whistleblowers shared it online. Brand purity became a rally cry. Within 2 months, McCoy Fine Timber was facing 5 lawsuits, 2 state investigations, and shareholder demands to remove the entire board. Henry stepped down. Daniel and Mitchell resigned. The company was acquired for pennies on the dollar by a competitor who promised ethical rebuilding. I was offered a high-ranking role. I declined. Instead, I bought a small cottage near the forest where my mother once took me hiking. I built a garden in her name. And on a quiet morning, I opened the old family crest plaque and burned it. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. It rusts slowly until the whole legacy crumbles from the inside. They stole my mother's name, so I made sure that name outlived theirs. If this story hit you in the heart, hit like and subscribe. We share real feeling stories every week, where betrayal ends in justice and silence ends in strength.